Have you ever felt your heart beating faster than it should, even when you are just sitting down quietly? Maybe it is not fear or excitement. Maybe it is not even something dramatic. Sometimes it is just life. A bit of stress here, a little sadness there, the quiet weight of missing someone you loved, or waking up and wondering if your life still has the same strength it used to. That quiet pressure in your chest, not the kind you rush to the hospital for, but the kind that slowly builds over the years. Yes, we are talking about the heart, but not only the physical one. We are also talking about the spiritual one, the emotional one, the one that carries your stories, your disappointments, and your deepest joys. After 60, the heart becomes a sacred place. It is no longer just a muscle pumping blood. It is the container of memories, of love that was once new and now runs deep, of faith that has been tested and still stands. And yet, this same heart also carries scars, regrets, and a quiet yearning for peace that sometimes seems just out of reach. We are used to hearing people talk about heart disease, cholesterol, blood pressure, and medication. And yes, all of that matters. But today I want to talk to you about something deeper. What if I told you that your heart needs more than just medicine? What if protecting your heart meant resting more in God's presence, forgiving someone you never thought you could, or walking gently each morning while talking to your Creator? Proverbs 4, verse 23 says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." It is a verse we often hear, but maybe we have not stopped to realize what it means at this stage of life. To guard the heart means to tend to it, to shelter it from bitterness, to nourish it with joy and truth. And yes, to be wise with our health too. Because here is the truth. A hurting heart, emotionally or spiritually, can hurt the body. The medical field has shown us something the Bible has been saying for centuries, that the emotional weight we carry directly affects the rhythm of our hearts. Stress can raise blood pressure. Loneliness can raise inflammation. Unresolved anger can strain the heart's natural beat. That is not just poetry. It is measurable, scientific truth. Have you ever felt your heart race after an argument? Or your chest tighten after a sad phone call? That is your emotional life touching your physical health. And at this point in life, when we have lived so much and carried so many burdens, it becomes even more important to protect both. So let us talk, you and I, like friends who trust each other. Let us talk about how to keep your heart beating strong, not just because of medicine, but because of meaning. Let us talk about how God can hold your heart and renew it. How a simple walk in the morning can bless your arteries and your spirit. How reading one psalm at night can lower more pressure than a news program ever could. Do not get me wrong. Doctors are a blessing, and their advice is precious. But they cannot give your heart peace. They cannot prescribe forgiveness or stillness or purpose. That is where faith comes in. That is where the Word becomes medicine too. Think for a moment about Elijah, the prophet who once felt so tired and overwhelmed that he lay down under a tree and said, "I have had enough, Lord." His heart was heavy, not from cholesterol, but from disappointment and fear. What did God do? He did not lecture Elijah. He gave him food, water, and rest. Then he whispered to him. That whisper healed more than any diet ever could. Sometimes what our hearts need most is permission to rest from being strong all the time, to rest from pretending we are not tired, to rest in the truth that God still holds us, that He still delights in us, even when we feel worn out. There is healing in that kind of rest. There is healing in tears that are allowed to fall. There is healing in prayer that does not ask for anything, only says, "Here I am, Lord, and I need you." And while we are on the subject of healing, I want to remind you of something else. Healing is not only physical. Sometimes healing is sitting with your Bible open and realizing that verse you read 100 times suddenly speaks to today's pain. Sometimes healing is reaching out to a friend and saying, "I'm not okay, can we talk?" Sometimes it is breathing deeply while looking at the sky, knowing you're still here, still loved, still held. Doctors say that slow, intentional breathing helps the heart regulate its rhythm. But you and I know that a grateful heart does the same. Gratitude softens the edges of stress. It brings your heart back to center. You may not be able to fix everything that hurts in your body, but you can choose where your heart rests. And rest, dear friend, is not laziness. It is wisdom. God Himself rested. Jesus often stepped away from the crowds just to be alone with the Father. If the Son of God needed rest to keep His heart connected to His purpose, why would we think we can keep going without it? Maybe this is a good moment to ask ourselves a question we do not often ask. Where does your heart go when no one is watching? What are the quiet thoughts that shape your days? What do you feed your heart with each morning? If the first thing you see is bad news or discouraging voices, your heart feels it. But if the first thing you hear is a verse, a prayer, or even just the silence where you meet God, your heart will thank you. And yes, your blood pressure might thank you too. I am not saying this to give you another list of things to do. You already carry enough. I am saying this because I care, because your heart matters, because your life is not over, not even close, because God still has things to show you, things to heal, and things to stir inside you that you thought had gone quiet. Before we continue, I would like to ask you something from the heart. If this conversation is speaking to you, if it's giving you comfort or clarity, would you consider subscribing to the channel and liking this video? It helps this message reach others who might be needing the same kind of encouragement today. Sometimes one click shares hope farther than we imagine. Let us keep walking together in this conversation. There is still so much more to say about caring for this heart of ours, both the one that beats inside our chest and the one that listens for God's voice. Let us go on. Do you remember the last time you went for a simple walk? Not to rush anywhere, not because you had something to do, but just to breathe and move a little. Sometimes we think taking care of the heart means doing something complicated, joining a gym, or following strict diets. But often, it's the gentler steps that protect us most. Your heart loves rhythm. Not just the rhythm of blood and breath, but the rhythm of daily life lived with balance. And one of the best things you can do, both for your body and your soul, is to keep moving, just a little each day. A quiet walk after breakfast, a stroll while you talk with God. Walking is one of the oldest and simplest gifts we have, and the Bible is full of it. From Abraham to Jesus, God's people walked. And when they walked, they listened, they prayed, they noticed things. Science backs this up beautifully. After 60, daily walking can lower your risk of heart disease, strengthen your bones, and help with sleep and digestion. But beyond the medical facts, something sacred happens when you walk without hurry. You reconnect with your breath. You feel the wind, the sun, the trees around you. And that awareness quiets the mind and soothes the heart. Another place where body and soul meet is in what we eat. Our culture has made food complicated. Diets, restrictions, trends. But if we return to the basics, both the Bible and modern science offer the same wisdom. Eat what is natural. Eat what is nourishing. Eat with gratitude. Think about the meals described in Scripture. Bread, fish, oil, figs, honey, lentils. Whole foods, simple and sustaining. Daniel chose to eat only vegetables and water during his time of trial, and he was strengthened. Elijah was fed by ravens with bread and meat in the wilderness, and later an angel gave him a simple meal that carried him through 40 days of walking. Jesus fed crowds with bread and fish and sat at tables where food was more about connection than calories. Today, doctors recommend something very similar, the Mediterranean style of eating. Not a strict diet, but a way of life filled with vegetables, fruits, olive oil, fish, whole grains, and shared meals. These foods help reduce inflammation, support the arteries, and bring vitality. But just as important is how we eat. Slowing down, chewing thoughtfully, blessing our food. Turning the act of eating into a sacred pause. So much of what harms our hearts doesn't come just from what we eat, but from how we live. Rushed meals, silent dinners, eating while distracted or upset. All of that affects digestion, stress, and ultimately, the heart. When we eat with peace, with prayer, with presence, the body responds. It relaxes, it heals. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to change everything overnight. Maybe it starts with adding a fruit to your breakfast, choosing olive oil instead of butter, or sharing a simple soup with a friend. Small changes made with love have great power. And what about sleep? It's something many people struggle with after 60. We wake more often, fall asleep more slowly, and sometimes lie in bed with thoughts racing. But sleep is not just rest. It is healing. It is the time when your heart slows down, your blood pressure drops, and your body restores itself. Poor sleep can raise your risk for heart disease, increase stress hormones, and leave you feeling tired in both body and spirit. The Bible speaks of sleep as a gift from God. Psalm 127 says, "He gives sleep to those he loves." Jesus himself slept in the middle of a storm. That picture of him resting while the sea raged is one we can hold on to. Maybe your life feels like that sometimes. Loud waves, worries crashing. But inside your soul, there is a space where peace can still dwell. A quiet bed, a prayer before sleep, a hand on your chest reminding your heart, you are safe. If you're struggling with rest, try this. Turn off the noise earlier. Dim the lights. Read a psalm instead of the news. Listen to soft music. Light a candle. And speak to God slowly, as if you were ending your day together like old friends. These small rituals tell your heart it can let go, that the world is not on your shoulders, that rest is holy, and let's not forget the power of joy. Laughter, music, shared stories. These are not extras. They are medicine. The book of Proverbs says, "A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones." Have you ever noticed how someone who laughs easily seems lighter? Not because their life is easier, but because they've learned not to carry everything alone. Joy does not mean pretending everything is fine. It means finding beauty, even in small things. A flower blooming, a child's voice, a favorite hymn, a memory that brings warmth. These moments expand the heart like a breath you didn't realize you were holding. I knew a woman who lost her husband after 45 years of marriage. The grief nearly broke her. For months, her heart ached both emotionally and physically. But slowly, she started writing him letters. Then she began walking again. One day, she joined a group at church that made soup for the elderly. They became her people. Her smile came back. Her doctor noticed her blood pressure improved. Her sleep deepened. She didn't stop missing him, but her heart started beating with hope again. That is the mystery of healing. Not forgetting, but rebuilding around love. You see, taking care of your heart after 60 is not about trying to live forever. It's about living fully right now. It is about honoring what your heart has been through and giving it the care it deserves to keep going. With each step, each breath, each blessing at the table, you are saying to your body, to your spirit, you matter. There is no age at which your heart stops needing tenderness. No age when you should stop dancing, dreaming, forgiving, or learning. The heart remains alive as long as we listen to it. And the most beautiful hearts, the ones that endure, are often the ones that have been broken, healed, and opened again. Let this be the season when you remember that. When you begin to see your heart, not just as something to protect, but as something to nurture. When you stop judging it by how fast it beats and start noticing how deeply it feels, how bravely it still loves, and how quietly it keeps you alive. We're not done yet. There's one more part of this conversation that I'd like to share with you. It's perhaps the most important one, because the heart also needs forgiveness, connection, and peace with others. And there is one more layer of healing that we still need to talk about. The part that links our heart to other hearts, to community, to God's greater design for our lives. Let's keep going together. There's a quiet ache that many people feel, but few talk about. It's the feeling of being disconnected, even in a room full of people. Sometimes it comes after retirement, or when the house becomes empty, or after someone dear has passed. And it doesn't always scream, it whispers. It tells the heart that maybe it is no longer needed, no longer seen, no longer part of something bigger. But that's not the truth. Not according to the God who shaped you and numbered your days with purpose. The truth is, your heart is still part of His plan. And one of the most powerful ways to protect your heart, even physically, is to remain connected to others and to Him. There is a deep link between isolation and heart health. Studies have shown that loneliness can be just as harmful to the body as smoking or high blood pressure. It increases the risk of heart attacks, strokes, and even memory loss. But what heals that isolation is not always found in a prescription. Sometimes it is found in a conversation, a prayer, a shared moment that reminds you still belong. Forgiveness plays a big part in this, because sometimes the disconnection we feel is not from being alone, but from being hurt, from holding on to pain, disappointment, or misunderstanding. And those wounds, when left untouched, can harden the heart, not just emotionally, but literally. Anger, bitterness, and resentment trigger stress chemicals in the body. They tighten the vessels, raise the blood pressure, and keep the heart in a constant state of alert. But forgiveness is a softening. It's not pretending something didn't happen. It's not excusing harm. It is deciding not to carry the burden any longer. It is saying to your own heart, I release this, not because they deserve it, but because I do. And when you do that, your heart begins to breathe again. Jesus spoke often about forgiveness. When Peter asked him how many times we should forgive, he answered not with a number, but with a heart posture. Not 7 times, but 70 times 7. Because forgiveness is not just a gift for others, it is a shelter for ourselves. And when forgiveness is hard, remember this: God forgave you first. Not because you earned it, but because love always chooses healing over hurt. You are not asked to forgive by your own strength. You are invited to forgive with His. Community is another shield for the heart. We are not created to do life alone. The early church met daily, broke bread together, shared what they had, and carried each other's burdens. Today, that might look like joining a Bible study, calling someone just to check in, or sitting with a neighbor over tea. I know someone who began volunteering at a local hospital after his wife passed. At first, he did it just to pass the time. But something shifted. The act of showing up, of helping others, started to mend his own grief. He didn't talk about his pain much, but his eyes changed. His steps got lighter. His heart, once weighed down by loss, started beating with purpose again. And that's what the heart really needs. Not perfection, not protection behind walls, but purpose. Something to wake up for, something to love. You can be 65 or 85 and still have work to do. Maybe not in the career sense, but in the kingdom sense. There is someone who needs your smile, your wisdom, your prayers, your presence. There is still beauty to be created through your hands. Psalm 73 says, My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever." That verse holds so much truth. Our bodies will age. That is a fact of life. But our source of strength does not come from muscle or medication. It comes from the one who renews us from within. So even on the days when your energy feels low or your joints ache a little more than usual, remember that strength is not always loud. Sometimes it looks like showing up. Sometimes it looks like being kind to yourself. Sometimes it looks like sitting with someone who just needs to be heard. And that brings us to one more layer of protection for your heart: gratitude. It is a powerful force, not because it changes your circumstances, but because it changes the way your heart sees them. A thankful heart is a resilient heart, one that can find light even in shadows. Try this sometime. Each morning, before you do anything else, place your hand over your heart and thank God for one thing. Just one. It might be the warmth of your blanket, the sound of birds outside, the breath in your lungs. Let that be your first act of the day. Not rushing, not worrying, just gratitude. That posture softens the body and opens the spirit. As we come to the end of this conversation, I want to remind you of something simple and true. Your heart has carried you through every chapter of your life. It has loved, it has grieved, it has rejoiced, and it is still beating, still longing, still open to being renewed. You are not too old for healing. You are not too late for joy. You are not past the point of purpose. You were created to live with a heart that lasts. Not a perfect heart, but a faithful one. One that keeps loving even when it's been hurt. One that keeps forgiving even when it would be easier to close off. One that keeps finding ways to move, to rest, to pray, and to trust. And if these words have stirred something inside you, if you've felt seen or strengthened by this message, would you take a moment to support this space? Like this video so that it reaches others who may be needing the same reminder. Subscribe to the channel so we can keep walking this journey together. And leave a comment below if you feel led. Share something from your heart, a story, a verse, a prayer. You never know who it might touch. Also, feel free to share this video with someone you care about. Sometimes a gentle word at the right time can change more than we know. The heart is a fragile and powerful thing, but in God's hands, it becomes something sacred. May your heart beat with peace, purpose, and grace for all the days to come.